Today, we're going somewhere. Somewhere pretty special. We're heading to the edge of the Great Thar Desert in Rajasthan. And right there, you find this incredible city, Jodhpur, which is basically built on a giant rock.
It really is. I mean, the centerpiece is this massive structure, the Mehrangarh Fort.
Right, the gateway to the Thar.
Exactly. And the foundation, the rock it's built on, that dictates this entire story. It was founded way back in 1459 by Rao Jodha.
And this isn't just any old hill. It's, what, 125 meters high?
Yeah, and it's made of rhyolite. It's volcanic rock, and that detail is absolutely key to everything that follows.
So volcanic means it's incredibly hard, incredibly dense.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why Rao Jodha chose it. It wasn't just for the view.
Yeah.
Those steep, sheer columns of rock were natural fortifications.
An unassailable position. Geology as military defense.
For 5 centuries, it worked perfectly. But while the fort was safe, the land immediately around it, that's another story.
70 or so hectares right next to it?
Yeah. Over hundreds of years of, grazing, habitation, just general neglect. It had become this severely eroded wasteland.
Okay, so by 2005, this land is a problem for the Mehrangarh Museum Trust.
A huge problem. They couldn't just leave it. But what do you do? How do you bring life back to solid rock?
And they end up approaching a pretty fascinating character to figure this out.
They do. A filmmaker turned botanist, Pradip Krishan.
And his first look at the site wasn't exactly encouraging, was it?
No, it's pretty sobering. He said that even in the monsoon, when you'd get this little flush of green, it was a short-lived trick. There was no soil to speak of. It was just eroded, hard, crystalline rock. You couldn't just throw fertilizer on it.
So let's really unpack this, because the mission here wasn't just gardening. They weren't trying to plant a nice lawn.
Not at all. The vision was so specific, they wanted to create an outdoor museum of native plants.
A picture of what the landscape looked like 500 years ago, before all the degradation.
Exactly, a restoration of ecological history. Yeah. And that meant focusing on a very specific kind of plant.
Lithophytes.
Lithophytes, literally, plants of the rock. These are organisms that have spent millions of years evolving to survive in these impossible, water-starved places.
So they're not just drought-resistant. They're specifically adapted to volcanic stone.
Right. They've learned to live in the tiny cracks and fissures where moisture can hang on. I mean, we're talking about a place that gets, on average, 23 centimeters of rain a year.
That's nothing.
It's nothing. So these are the botanical special forces.
But before they could bring in their special forces, they had a huge problem. The land was already occupied.
Occupied by a formidable enemy. And that brings us to the real villain of the story.
An invasive shrub from Mexico, Prosopis juliflora.
Which earned this perfectly terrifying local name in Marwari. They call it Bavlia.
Which means?
The mad one.
The mad one. Why?
Because it's madly successful. It was brought in almost a century ago, scattered from an airplane in this really misguided attempt to green up the desert quickly.
And I guess it worked, but in the worst possible way?
In the worst way. It needs almost no water, no nutrients, and it just bullies everything else out. But it's not just a physical bully.
Right. It's chemically aggressive.
That's the insidious part. It actually secretes toxic alkaloids into the soil from its roots.
So it poisons the ground for anything else trying to grow nearby.
Precisely. It creates its own toxic monoculture. It's a war on 2 fronts, physical and chemical.
So getting rid of it, the obvious solution, just chopping it down, that didn't work.
It made things worse. You cut it at ground level, it comes back with just redoubled vigor.
So what was the scientific requirement to actually kill it?
You had to get below its subterranean budding zone. That meant you had to cut the main rootstock at least 14 or 15 inches deep.
35 centimeters.
Yes, 35 centimeters down into hard volcanic rhyolite.
Okay, that's not a job for a shovel. That is a massive, massive problem.
A huge, expensive problem. So the team, they got desperate. They started trying anything they could think of.
What kind of things?
Oh, all sorts. They tried covering the stumps with green cow dung, hoping it would rot the root. Nothing. They tried bringing in goats, but the goats are too smart. They wouldn't touch the toxic leaves.
So they moved on to more high-tech stuff?
They did. Compressor-driven augers. But on that crystalline rock, they were just too slow. They kept breaking down.
Yeah.
The cost was just astronomical for a 70-hectare site.
Which leads to even more desperation.
And desperation, as we know, leads to some really bad ideas.
Like dynamite.
Like dynamite. A skeptical attempt using these tiny, supposedly controlled charges to fracture the rock around the shoots.
I have a bad feeling about this.
You should. It was a disaster. It didn't just loosen the rock, it shattered the crest of a rocky knoll.
Oh, no.
Yeah. In one single moment, they had irrevocably damaged the 500-year-old historic landscape they were trying to save.
Heck, a lesson.
A brutal lesson. It proved that you couldn't just force a solution with modern tech. They were stuck between the mad invader and the impenetrable rock.
And this is where the story takes a fascinating turn, right? Away from modern science and back towards something much, much older.
Exactly. When all the new ideas failed, they turned to the local community, specifically to the traditional rock miners of Jodhpur, the Khandwalias.
Khandwalia. The name itself comes from the local word for rock, khanda.
It does. These men are the direct descendants of the stonemasons who chiseled the blocks from Mehrangarh Fort 500 years ago.
But that was mostly sandstone, which is relatively soft. This is hard volcanic rhyolite. Could they even handle it?
That was the big question, but then the leader of the crew, Dansing Khandwalia, gave this incredible demonstration.
What did he do?
He didn't come in with power tools. He squatted down by a small bavavlia plant with this heavy, short-handled hammer, and instead of just smashing the rock, he just tapped it. A gentle tap, and then he cocked his ear and listened.
He listened to the rock.
He listened to the rock's song, as they call it.
Wow. What was he hearing? I mean, this guy hasn't been to geology class.
He doesn't need to. The sound, the resonance told him everything. Whether it was a dull thud or a faint ring, he could read the internal structure.
So he could hear the fault lines, the weak points.
Exactly. He was reading the rock's secrets just by listening. It was this centuries-old, inherited knowledge.
So the project leaders, these educated botanists, had to basically hand over the key to the whole project to these traditional miners. That must have been a humbling moment.
It was both humbling and absolutely necessary. They knew what to plant, but only the Khandwalias knew how to dig. They were the only ones who could get down to that 18-inch to 3-foot depth without destroying the landscape.
So they hired a whole crew of them.
A platoon of 13 Khandwalias became the permanent bavavlia removal squad. And as they did this painstaking work, they made a discovery.
A discovery that changed the whole strategy.
It did. It was a classic learn from your enemy moment. As they pulled out these deep bavavlia roots, they noticed something strange about their shape.
They weren't round, like a normal root.
No, they were often two-dimensional, flat, like tough ribbons.
Like ribbons. Why?
Because that's the plant's adaptation to the rock. A normal root can't drill through rhyolite. But these ribbon roots could snake their way down through the existing microfissures and cleavage planes.
Ah, so they were following the natural weaknesses in the rock.
Perfectly. It was a blueprint for survival. And that observation became the core ecological strategy for the entire park.
They decided to follow the Bavli's lead.
Exactly. They realized, why try to create new planting holes? Let's just use the spots that the invader has already proven can support life.
That's brilliant. It's counterintuitive, but brilliant.
It took all the guesswork out of it. They were letting the enemy draw the map for the new ecosystem. They were finally working with the geology, not against it.
So now they knew where to plant. But they still needed to know what to plant.
For that, they needed another kind of deep ancestral knowledge, this time botanical.
Which led them to Professor M.M. Bhandari.
Dr. Saab, as he was known. He was nearly 80, but his enthusiasm was just infectious. He was a living encyclopedia of the Thar Desert's flora.
And his memory was legendary. There's an amazing story about him guiding a team remotely.
It's incredible. He'd tell them, from his home, based on trips he took 30 years ago, go to the temple near Barren. Walk behind it. You'll find a small crucifer. White flowers, orange stem.
And they'd find it.
They'd find it. The slender Forsythia micrantha in the only place it grows in all of India. That's how they built their nursery. One memory at a time.
An amazing process. So they have all these plants, about 140 native species in the end. How do these things actually survive out there? What are their strategies?
Well, there are basically three main approaches to dealing with that intense drought.
Okay.
The first, and maybe the most obvious, is succulents. Basically, you store your own water.
Like a cactus.
Exactly. A great local example is the leafless spurge, Euphorbia caducifolia. They call it the Rajput of the plant world because it's so brave.
Huh? I love that. Why?
Because it never retreats. It keeps its big, green, sap-filled columns year-round. It just stands there and takes the heat. It's this vital spot of green in an otherwise brown landscape.
And the second strategy?
That's deep, penetrative roots. This is for the bigger trees. They just try to drill down to find moisture deep, deep below the surface.
But that's got to be tough in the rhyolite.
Extremely tough. It's high-risk, high-reward strategy that only a few species can pull off there.
And then there's the third, which is maybe the most successful for the little guys.
It is. It's what the sources call crass opportunism, or, my favorite, dying to live.
Dying to live. I like that. So what is it?
It's the ultimate avoidance strategy. These are the small, ephemeral plants. They don't try to survive the drought at all. They just skip it.
How?
They exist as these incredibly tough, hard-coated seeds for most of the year. Biological time capsules just waiting.
Waiting for the monsoon. But how do they know it's the real deal and not just a quick shower?
The seeds are brilliant chemical sensors. They need a very specific amount of water for a specific duration at a specific temperature before the shell will unlock.
So they can't be fooled.
Nope. And when the monsoon finally arrives, it's a race against the clock. They have maybe 8 to 12 weeks to do everything.
Germinate, grow, flower, fruit, drop new seeds.
And then die. They completely avoid the heat and the drought. A short, glorious burst of life, then a long, necessary silence.
But getting to that point, I mean, after the convolvulus cleared out all the bobavlia, the place must have looked awful.
It looked horrific. The sources say it was stripped, violated, like comic book Swiss cheese.
And the team must have been terrified.
Oh, there was huge anxiety. The fear was, have we just removed the only thing that could possibly grow here? They worried the next monsoon would just wash away what little soil was left.
So how did they move past that fear? How did they make sure they were actually making progress?
They switched from intuition to hard data. They started a rigorous monitoring system for every single plant they put in the ground.
What did that look like?
They painted little flat rocks blue with yellow numbers, one for each of the 2,600 plants in the first year.
And they tracked everything.
Everything. The depth of the pit, the soil mix they used, and most importantly, how the plant was doing. All of it went into a massive Excel spreadsheet.
And what did the data start to tell them?
It started to filter out the guesswork. For instance, they looked at Acacia Senegal, or Cometh.
The local tree.
Right. And the data showed it was doing terribly in any pit less than 2 feet deep. There was a clear survival threshold.
Interesting.
And it also showed it didn't like too much clay in the soil mix, which was counterintuitive. They thought clay would hold water, but when it dried, it became like concrete.
So they were learning pit by pit, plant by plant.
Exactly. They were using the data from the site itself to refine their methods. It was this perfect mix of the convolvulus' ancient wisdom and modern data-driven science.
So let's jump forward. The park, the Rao Jodha Desert Rock Park, opens to the public. What's it like to actually walk through it now?
It's a masterclass in blending the new with the old. They took this 16th century gateway, the Signoria Bari, and turned it into the visitor center.
And the new architecture, it doesn't stick out.
It's almost invisible. They use the same rhyolite from the site for the walls, rippled sandstone for the floors. It feels like it's always been there.
And they have trails for people to follow.
4 defined trails. It's smart, it controls the foot traffic, and lets you experience the different micro-ecosystems without damaging them.
Let's talk about one of them, the Gully Trail. That one sounds amazing.
It is. You go down these stone stairs into an ancient aqueduct that was carved right through the rock.
To carry water to the lake below the fort.
Exactly. And because it's deep in the rock, it's cool and shady, a completely different microclimate.
And you see different plants there.
Totally different. You see things like wall linden bergia sprouting right out of the old masonry. You see neem trees growing straight out of a crack in the rock. It's incredible.
Now, I read they actually left one of the invasive species in that area.
They did. The rubber vine, Cryptostagia grandiflora. It's from Madagascar.
Why leave it?
It has this interesting history. It was brought over during World War I. They were hoping to make aircraft tires from its latex.
Huh. A failed wartime experiment.
Right. And it is beautiful. It lines the walkway, so they manage it, but they've kept it as part of the park's story.
But the park isn't just visual. It's a whole sensory experience.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially after the monsoon, the smells, the sounds, and the tastes.
Right. You can actually eat some of the plants.
You can. There's the juju bush, or bordy, which has these delicious little yellow fruits, a local favorite. And then there's the toothbrush tree.
The toothbrush.
Celadora persica. The twigs are used as, well, toothbrushes, but it produces these tiny, translucent, ruby red fruits.
And what do they taste like?
They have this sharp, surprising, mustardy flavor. It's amazing. Some people even think it's the mustard tree from the Old Testament.
But the real proof of a healthy ecosystem is the return of wildlife.
That's the ultimate test, and the signs are everywhere. They find evidence of wild boar digging for tubers.
Porcupines.
Porcupine nibbles on the bark of trees, lizards, and my favorite anecdote,
The toddy cat.
the toddy cat turd, found in a little gap in the masonry. It's funny, but it's also profound proof that these historic structures are now providing shelter for nocturnal mammals. The food web is coming back.
And the birds. The park has become a major hotspot for bird watching.
A huge hotspot. Over 200 species now. You get these massive clouds of sparrows and bulbuls, rock pigeons, partridges,
Like raptors, too,
kites, shrikes, and then there's the Devikund Lake, just a short walk away.
which turns into a wetland.
An incredible wetland in the desert. You see ducks, grebes, herons, egrets, ibises. It just shows that when you restore the habitat, life comes flooding back.
So this park is so much more than just a beautiful place. It's really a model for sustainability.
It is. It's a perfect example of how true sustainability works like three interlocking gears,
Ecology, economy, and community.
all turning together. The ecology part is obvious. They restored this unique habitat using local species and low-cost, patient methods.
Right, and the economy gear. How does it pay for itself?
Through a smart, modest fee structure. 100 rupees for adults, but free for all school students, which is critical.
And that income supports the maintenance.
Exactly. It creates jobs for guides, for the shop. It keeps the Kanwalias employed. It makes the whole thing self-sufficient.
Which brings us to that third year, community.
And this is where it really shines. It's not a project done for the community. It was done by them. It affirmed the value of that traditional Kandwalia knowledge.
And that connection to traditional knowledge runs deep in Jodhpur, especially when it comes to the environment.
It's a survival tool.
Yeah.
The local people have this incredible system for forecasting the weather based on animal behavior.
Like the cuckoo.
Right. If a cuckoo flies north to south at a certain time in the morning making a certain call, they say rain will come in exactly 3 days.
That's incredibly specific.
And there are others. If a crow lays its eggs, no rain for 60 days in that direction. If a sparrow takes a dust bath, rain is on its way.
But the most important one is the lapwing's nest.
The red wattled lapwing, this is just profound. If it builds its nest high up on a mound, it means good, heavy rains are coming and the lowlands will flood.
But if it nests down low, near the tank bed,
It means a poor rain year. The bird is telling them the water level won't rise very high. It's this beautiful, accumulated wisdom passed down for generations.
and that wisdom is also encoded in their culture, in folk songs.
Yes, songs that warn against killing the demoiselle train, songs that praise the peacock's call. It embeds conservation right into their ethics.
Which connects directly to one of the most amazing, long-standing traditions at the Mehrangarh Fort itself.
The daily feeding of the black kites, it's this incredible ritual that goes back centuries.
Tell me about it. It happens at a specific time every day.
Every single day. A man named Abdul Latif Qureshi walks from his mutton shop and arrives at the Salim Court on the fort ramparts at exactly 3:30 p.m.
And the kites know.
The kites know. They're already there, circling, waiting. He starts flinging pieces of meat into the air,
And they catch them mid-flight.
like small fighter jets, swooping down with this incredible precision. It's an amazing sight.
And this has been going on for 600 years. There are a couple of different origin stories for it.
There are. The first is religious. The royal family worshipped the goddess Chamunda Devi. The story goes that after she accepted a human sacrifice, the king decided to feed her favorite bird, the kite, every day to keep her happy so she wouldn't ask for another one.
So the fate of the city is tied to the birds.
They believe that as long as the kites circle the fort, the city will be blessed.
And the other story involves a curse.
It does. It says that to build the fort, Rao Jodha had to displace a holy man, Chirya Nathji, the Lord of Birds.
And he was not happy about it.
He was furious. He cursed the kingdom to always lack water. So the terrified king apologized and, to appease him, ordered that the birds be fed every day forever.
Two different stories, but the result is the same.
An unbroken 600-year tradition of conservation maintained by one family, Abdul Latif Qureshi's family. It's just astonishing.
And that kind of long-term thinking, that patience, is exactly what the park project itself is all about.
It's all about respecting the long, slow rhythm of the desert. The park's byline is perfect. It grows on you.
They took a wasteland and by listening to the past, turned it back into an oasis.
But it's a slow process. They say if a small tree puts on 5 inches of new growth in a season, that's a triumphal result. They're still maybe a decade away from a fully mature ecosystem. It requires that deep patience.
The goal was never a quick fix. It was to create a place that tells the story of the desert, of resilience, of these incredible survival strategies. And they've done that.
They really have, which I think raises a really important question for all of us. The success of this whole project, it didn't come from imposing some big, expensive, modern technology.
No, it came from listening.
It came from affirming local traditions, from valuing the expertise of people like the Conwalias who could literally listen to the rock. So when we're facing our own big environmental challenges that seem to require these massive high-tech solutions, how often do we forget to look for the wisdom that's already there? How often do we overlook the profound knowledge held by the local communities who are closest to the problem? Maybe the most powerful answers are the ones that have been there all along, just waiting for us to stop and listen.